Cageside with John Morgan.
And we're back yet again. Who knows what episode this is? Me and John, we've been doing this for a while now. We're back with another episode of Cageside with John Morgan, a UFC 309 pay-per-view edition, the return of the GOAT, Jon Jones versus the greatest heavyweight champion the UFC has ever seen in Stipe Miocic edition of Cageside with John Morgan. I don't want to waste any time. I'm going to bring him in right now. You can follow him on X, John Morgan _MMA. He's not going to be there, even though we thought he was. What's up, John?
I see you, man. I see you just rubbing it in for me. Yeah, I'm a little bit bittersweet because I'm really, really excited about this week. It's a great week for me personally. I got a lot of broadcasting going on. It's a great week for the CFFC match day team. We've got a couple of events this week, but I thought I was going to be able to slide in a little trip to Madison Square Garden in between the two events. Started getting a little bit hairy with the details and the timing, and it was a little bit worrisome that I might not be able to make it back in time, and there might be some issues. So finally, just had to pull the plug. I'll just be watching on pay-per-view. So I'm a little bit bummed that I won't be cage shot at Madison Square Garden because it's always a special place. But, hey, man, I'm a fight fan. I'll be watching this thing on TV. I can't wait. It's as we get closer and closer and closer, and now it's fight week, man. I'm fired up. It's a Jon Jones fight week. It's a Stipe fight week, too. I know he's your guy, but it's a Jon Jones fight week. It's Madison Square Garden. It's a UFC pay-per-view. I'm getting fired up.
I'm going to lead with this. Has everybody been a little unfair to the heavyweight GOAT, Stipe Miocic?
I think so. I think so because it's very fair to look at this matchup on paper and just say all the question marks. Like, what do we do when we break things down, right? I mean, a fight's a fight, and anything can happen in a fight. And that's why we love this sport so much, because you get these crazy surprises and things that you didn't expect and things that you never saw coming. But what you do is you try to break down. You look at the strengths and weaknesses. You look at the styles. You look at all things. And when you factor in the layoff, when you factor in the age, when all those things are slotted against Stipe Miocic, and they lean towards Jon Jones. And so because of that, you come back and you say, well, when I look at this matchup, I think Jon Jones is the favorite on paper. And he is. I don't think anybody could look at this matchup and not say that Jon Jones should be favored to beat Stipe here. But to absolutely then say that and then just count the guy out, like, there's still a lot of question marks around Jon Jones. I mean, do we really know how effective he is as a heavyweight? I mean, what we saw against Cyril Gane, did that tell us all we need to know about Jon Jones? And, hey, Jon Jones is a great striker. How many knockouts does Stipe have? Hey, Jon Jones is a great wrestler. What did Stipe not wrestle in college? Does he not have Division I experience? I mean, there's a lot of things. So, yes, I believe they are being very, very unfair. And I think a lot of it is because people are excited about the possibility of Tom Aspinall, but that doesn't mean you can completely write off Stipe here. If you do that, man, this whole thing could get topsy-turvy real quick.
Listen, I'm not going to compare Jon Jones to Verdum. Nobody gave him a shot to knock out Verdum, and he did going backwards. I'm just saying that. But which then started a run, right? I want to start breaking down. One, we have been unfair. He is the greatest heavyweight champion the UFC has ever seen. I mean, this is like literally equivalent to saying that, Larry Bird, he's got no shot at playing one-on-one against Michael Jordan. The guy, Larry Bird, can shoot lights out, right? It might be his one path to victory, but he could shoot lights out. He could on a best day, he might be able to beat Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has more paths, though. Right. And that's kind of like, I think, where this is really going, on top of the age and the layoff and the this and the that. Right. But I want to give, as we're breaking this down, I'm going to give reasons on why Stipe can win this fight. I publicly said this. Stipe is my favorite current UFC fighter. For all the reasons I said, active firefighter, family man, I think this is a guy in a sport where a lot of people don't have their priorities straight. This man has his priorities straight, and I respect the shit out of that. And that's why he is, right?
Yep.
But yeah, he's not the favorite here. And with me saying he is my favorite fighter, I in the weirdest way possible, I want Jon Jones to win because I want to see the train wreck that is going to come after this.
It would get absolute chaos, right? I mean, You're right. I love your analogy right there, by the way. That was a great analogy there, the Bird to Jordan comparison. I love that. It's true. But yeah, I mean, can you imagine the chaos that would ensue over everything that's laid out? I mean, everybody's talking about where Tom Aspinall fits in. Everybody's talking about, Jon Jones as the GOAT, and is he scared, and is he avoiding anything? And now they're, Alex Pereira, we've kind of touched on that over the time as well.
And we're going to touch on it more. So don't jump my shark on this, John.
I won't do that. But you're right, because all these scenarios and all these stories and all the things that everybody is looking forward to in the future is all built around a Jon Jones win. To be honest, I haven't heard many people at all talk about what happens when Stipe wins. Where do you go from here? What comes next? So it would be absolute chaos. And then, oh my God. And then where does the GOAT discussion go at that point, right? Because if you say Jon Jones is the greatest of all time, now do you go, well, I mean, he was the greatest heavyweight of all time, and he took a shot going up to heavyweight. And you can't really count that against him, or do you shut it? I mean, just the places things would go would be insane. So from a crazy talking point perspective, a Stipe win would be awfully intriguing.
You want to talk about the ultimate wrench thrown into everything if Stipe were to pull off what many believe is the unfathomable?
Think about this, right? Because most people feel like Tom Aspinall, I mean, obviously he's the interim champion, so he is kind of the guy in waiting right now, but a lot of people are talking about the unification fight and the coronation and all that. I mean, if Stipe wins, and by all expectations will retire if he's victorious, I mean, and justly so, as you said, he's got a lot of other things going on than just his fighting career, and he said as much. But then, what Tom Aspinall comes in, and who does he face for the now vacant heavyweight title? Maybe you just give him the title. You could probably just.
I think you would have to. I think you would have to.
But then now, John and Stipe and whoever else, anybody that wants to be a critic can sit back on the sidelines and pot shot and be like, bro, you didn't even beat a champ to get that. They just had to make your interim title a real one. You're not even the real champ. You didn't beat Stipe. You didn't beat that guy. I mean, there's just so many wild possibilities that can unfold that could have long-reaching effects.
Has Aspinall fought Cyril Gane?
Yes.
He hasn't. Has he?
Yeah. Make sure I'm not crazy here. Am I remembering a fight that didn't happen? That does happen sometimes. You're right. They haven't fought yet. You're right about that. Yeah, that would be a fight to make. But Cyril's got to beat Volkov coming up, right? UFC 310.
Which that's no easy feat. I saw him at the PI. That man is a freaking monster.
Every time you get around Volkov, you forget just how giant he is. I
watched him pushing some sleds from I was 10 yards away, and they get bigger as they get closer, but he didn't get closer, and he was still a mountain.
That's a great fight right there. And where's Cyril Gane at right now? You know what I mean? Who knows? I mean, he came back and was victorious after that Jon Jones loss, but Sergey Spivak, not necessarily that top tier elite level division. Volkov is.
We thought he was
top tier.
We thought he was.
We did think he was.
All right. Well, with that being said, right, with just throwing in a wrench took us in a pivot that we didn't need to go into. But anyways, with that, it's hysterical because this is what they would be doing in the office if I say God forbid, but God forbid for the UFC that happens.
It'll change everything.
Everything. Man, I'm telling you, I think this fight is going to be a little more interesting than people lay it out. I really do. I think people believe that he's just going to run through Stipe. Stipe ain't built that way, man. He ain't built that way. And are you going to tell me that let me back up. I feel bad for Stipe for the Francis Ngannou fight. I think he had so many things stacked against him in that fight, right? One, Apex, we all know it is a much smaller cage. Let's just start there.
Way smaller.
I mean, it's like 30% smaller.
Yep. Yeah, it's you say it's just it's 30 feet versus 25 feet. And that's not that big, but the way geometry works, it is a lot bigger than you think. It's about 30%, like you said. And when you're talking about facing a striker, I mean, anybody at heavyweight, really, I mean, it behooves both styles, striking and grab. It's just a whole lot less real estate to work with.
Right. And so it's weird from setting things up to, I think he was going to want to try and wrestle in that fight. He didn't get the opportunity. He got clipped early, but I think the cage had a little bit to do with it. Not a lot, little bit, but I'm going to other little things. He came off of wars Wars. He wasn't healed. He's going to be freshly healed now. Will he have ring rust? Maybe, probably. I do think ring rust is a real thing. But, he comes off of wars. What we know now is when you take shots, just because he didn't get knocked unconscious the second DC fight doesn't mean that he wasn't compromised. He took some brutal shots in that fight, right? Correct. And, he gets right back into training. I think it was like 8 months, but he's back into training within 3 months. He's not letting heal. I think there was a lot. I would be interested to see if that fight took place in a normal size octagon 6 months later. I do think it could have been a lot different. Now, Francis has got the power to put anybody's lights out. We've seen it, right? I'm not saying that if he would have caught him clean, but I do think that it just would have been different. And so it's in a roundabout way going to, do I think Jon Jones has the one-hitter quitter power that Francis Ngannou has? And the answer to that is hell no. Probably very few people, not named Anthony Johnson, Deontay Wilder.
Oh, Deontay Wilder.
Right?
Yeah. 100%.
And so do I think it's Jon Jones is just going to run through him? No. Do I think he can dominate him in a lot of positions? I do.
100%. That's what makes it so interesting, right? It is a heavyweight fight, and that's what you have to remember here, right? I mean, you think about the number of knockout victories that Stipe has. I mean, this guy's been knocking out other heavyweights, right? I mean, not light heavyweights. And Jon Jones, you said it. I mean, it's just an accurate assessment. He doesn't have that one hitter. Now, that, with the added muscle, with the added power, could that maybe add some knockout force? So maybe, but I don't think of him as that way. Just the way he strikes, it's almost like I don't want to say a point fighting, but it kind of feels that way, right? He's using his range to his advantage, like he's flicking out the long strikes. He's throwing the two from range. He's using the teep kick. He's chopping at your legs and knees. I mean, so he's doing a lot of that. Stipe can straight up crack. I mean, you talked, what a great example with the Fabrizio Verdum as he's moving backwards, right? I mean, that was absolutely insane. So Stipe has the power advantage. This is a heavyweight matchup. You know what I mean? And we're saying a lot of things about the ring rust and the time away, but Jon Jones only has 2 minutes in the last 4 years as well. Like Stipe right? So I mean, yeah, it's not like well, man, Jon Jones has been there fighting 3 times a year for the last 4 years, and this dude is like he's in a groove, he's dialed in. It's not. So man, you're 100% right there. It again. It's heavyweight. Why is the record for heavyweight title defenses in the UFC consecutively so small? Because it's hard, man. Anything can happen in a heavyweight fight. Everybody can clip you. So you're absolutely right about that.
I want to go over. Listen, Jon Jones is the GOAT. It's undisputed in both of our opinion.
Yes.
Now, I do I've listened to Rogan and stuff like that, and he says, we have to. I hate putting one person as the GOAT because you got to talk about situational stuff. Was Khabib the GOAT? Was John the GOAT? Was whatever the GOAT? Everybody in their prime. You have to vote them in their prime as the GOAT. So, but I think let's just assume everybody agrees that Jon Jones, if he's not the GOAT, he's definitely in the conversation of the GOAT.
That is at a minimum. That is the lowest level you can possibly assess Jon Jones's career, is that he deserves to at least be in the conversation of pound for pound greatest of all time.
And we detailed last week with the 12-6 that if it was on beneficial replay, probably wouldn't have been 12-6, and he wouldn't have had that disqualification loss, and he'd be undefeated, which then would have, in anybody's eyes, cemented it, right? But I'm going to give some reasons here on why this fight is going to be more difficult than the people want and the line of minus 600, 650. It may even be higher than that. I haven't seen it. What is it? 625, minus 625.
As high as minus 750 out there on DraftKings right now, which is crazy. But you know what's it's funny that you mentioned it. I'm just going to bring it up since you just mentioned the line. It opened at Jon Jones minus 300, and it got bet way down to minus 650, minus 700, minus 750. I kind of
is that like up or down? I don't know.
So that means money came in on Jon Jones.
I realize that, but you're teaching me here now. It's bet down to because it's minus going down.
Exactly. So you're betting up even though you're right. It downs. It's there you go. It's bet up even though it's down. I like that. It's a math lesson here for everybody. But
there we go. Minus is down even though the number's going up. If it has a minus before, it's going down.
Even though it's negative. But you know what? But I kind of like that. I mean, we started out saying Jon Jones is absolutely the favorite here. I kind of like that early number. Minus 300 seems a little bit more accurate to me, right? Than minus 750. You're giving almost, no chance.
Stipe has power. That's number one. We haven't seen Jon Jones take a heavyweight punch yet. We haven't. Cyril Gahn didn't even touch him.
Nope.
We don't know. That is a huge variable. What I do know is Dominick Reyes touched him up. I do know that Thiago Santos touched him up. I do know that an Alexander Gustafsson touched him up. Now, what do all three of those guys have in common? They have two things in common, in my opinion. I want to hear if you see any correlation with them and Stipe.
Range and striking, I would say.
Range.
Yep.
Length.
Yep.
Right? They're big guys. They're long and lanky. And for the most part, maybe outside of Gustafsson, they do have all two of them have significant power. And it gave Jon Jones trouble.
Such a great point, man. You're so right. Man, think about this, right? I mean, in February of 2020, obviously that year got a little weird, but after Jon Jones beat Dominick Reyes, which a lot of people don't think he did, right? Now a lot of people are saying, gosh, Jon Jones, man, it's over for him. He actually lost his fight to Dominick Reyes. Split decision with Thiago Santos. I mean, people were saying, this guy's washed up. It's over. And then, he takes years off, comes back and beats Cyril Gahn, and now he absolutely can't be touched. I mean, that's crazy, right? And I know this is very much a what have you done for me lately type sport, but let's go back and relive that, and let's go back and think that. And this is coming from two guys who openly say this guy is the greatest of all time. But there's a difference between saying you're the greatest of all time and there's zero chance whatsoever for you to lose a fist fight. And that simply is just not the case here. There is a possibility, and I love the comparisons you just made there because you're absolutely right. There are similarities in the body type, in the skill set that these type of people have that gave him some problems early on. And that was not, though it may have been years ago, those were in his most recent appearances. And I know he absolutely just dominated Cyril Gahn, but we didn't really see anything there. You know what I mean? We left that fight with the same questions we had before we went into it. They didn't get answered because Cyril Gahn, I think, kind of froze up a little bit and just got absolutely overwhelmed in the grappling department. And I don't think Stipe is going to freeze up. He's been in these opportunities and these spotlights many times. And I don't think he's going to freeze up in the grappling game. He's not going to get overwhelmed there. So, man, there are some real possibilities for Stipe to win this fight.
With the similarities that we just, with the range and with the power, Stipe, and we've seen him do this, he will throw down in exchanges.
Yes.
He's going to plant his feet and he will throw down and get into exchanges. So if Jon's walking him down, which I do think Jon is going to walk him down to a degree, Jon starts putting 2-3 punch combos together. Stipe is not just going to sit there and not throw back. That's another reason I think this has potential to have danger for Jon, because now we know he's got power. He's got power. He's got range. And why does the range important there with the power against a Jon Jones who's rangy? Usually Jon Jones can do those multiple combinations without the fear of being hit back.
Yes.
Because he uses his length and his distance better than maybe anybody in the history of this game. But he's going to be going against Stipe Miocic. Do you have length in front of you? Now, we knew it was wrong, and who was it? We were just talking about it was wrong. And
I can't remember the one. They were both the same. You're like, they're definitely not the same. Yeah, it was funny because I wanted to pull it up. I mean, we know that Jon Jones has the longest reach in mixed martial arts, so it doesn't matter what division he's in. He's going, or at least in the UFC, I should say, not mixed martial arts. He has the longest range in the UFC, but he has an 84.5-inch reach against an 80-inch reach for Stipe. And in the leg reach, it's 45 to 39. So 4.5-inch reach advantage in the arms and a 6-inch reach advantage on the legs.
It's not DC versus Jon is basically
Correct.
Where I'm going with this.
Yep.
Right.
Correct.
So Jon is going to have the respect of not just throwing from range and not with the expectation that he can't get touched back. And with, Stipe willing. This is the beauty of Stipe. He's willing to get in that exchange. I think it could, with untested at heavyweight Jon Jones, it poses a problem.
100%. 100%. It's funny. I think it was Chael Sonnen that I was listening to recently that made a point that I thought was very interesting. It's right. Most people will tell you that, if you look at this matchup on paper, Jon Jones is going to win. Most people will tell you that. But then if you ask, well, how does he win? Does he win by knockout? Like, I don't think so. I mean, if they get into these striking shit, and I got to think Stipe is going to absolutely be walking forward and be willing. I mean, most times when you have a guy with a reach advantage, it's advantage because you're concerned about getting hit, right? So you don't want to just wade in to move past the range. You have to find a way to get past it to get there. I don't think that's going to be the case for Stipe. I know, and again, there's still question marks. We don't know what Jon Jones' power is like as heavyweight. We didn't really get to see it against Cyril Gane. I don't think he now has that one-hitter-quitter power. He may. Again, he's heavyweight. He's a big guy. He's athletic. He's got great technique. Maybe he does. He is, but I don't think he does. And I think Stipe is going to realize that quickly and be willing to move past it. Then you start, well, I mean, Jon Jones has got great wrestling. I mean, so, is he going to win it in the grappling department? Because, Daniel Cormier was in the Olympic Games. He had pretty good grappling as well. You know what I mean?
Hold on. You're going down my list without me. Going down my list without me.
But it's interesting, right? So as far as just the striking parts, yeah, I absolutely, this could be very dangerous for Jon Jones. Now, Jon Jones is smart, right? I mean, they are known for being incredible game planners, incredible studiers of film, incredibly just breaking down every aspect. I've got to think, the kicks have always been a big part of Jon Jones' game, right? But I would think in this particular matchup, they have to be massive. So if we're looking at striking, I don't think Jon Jones wants to trade hands with Stipe. I think he wants to keep him at range. Like you said, kind of that point fighting type approach, and he wants to just absolutely destroy the legs if he can.
Okay. Let's not forget that Stipe took in Francis Ngannou 1 when everybody was terrified of him. Now they still are, but it was magnified at that point. Like, who the F is this dude, right? And he had literally just come off of, I think Overeem's head still hasn't landed yet,
right,
from orbit, right? Stipe took every shot from him and ate it. Now, I chronicalized why after DC1, DC2, going into Francis Ngannou, why I think he was compromised going into that fight, the smaller cage, talked about that all the right. So I know he has the willingness to throw down, and I know he has the chin. I do not take Francis Ngannou's the last fight as a thing of he doesn't have chin. He does.
Well,
okay. Now, to the point of you watching film, that was actually last on my list of why this is going to be a competitive fight. But I'm now going to move it up since you jumped the shark on me.
Yeah, I get excited.
So it is well documented that Jon Jones is just this freak studier. But it is also well documented that he has problems with motivation. Right? And so I have motivation on my list. There's a lot of chatter of other things out there other than Stipe Miocic when you bring up Jon Jones.
Right.
Was he ultra motivated against Dominick Reyes? I don't think he was.
No.
Was he ultra motivated against Thiago Santos? I don't think he was.
No.
Let's go back to Gustafsson 1, not 2. Gustafsson 1. I know he was not motivated. They said he didn't even train for that fight.
Definitely not.
He didn't. Greg Jackson has come out and said he never even trained for that fight.
It's insane.
So he wasn't even motivated. Okay. Am I looking at this as Stipe Miocic is his number one motivator right now? You're going to have it hard for me to believe that it is. With everything else going on right now, right? What I think his motivation is does the future lie with the potential of getting through this guy? What is the bags going to get thrown at me? What is the trolling I'm going to be able to do? I just like in some way, I'm not saying he's looking past him, but he's looking past him with possibilities because he's already talking about it. So I know when a Jon Jones isn't he was laser focused on DC, especially right. DC2. Knocked him out with a freaking head kick.
Right.
Is that the same right now? He was motivated on getting healthy. He was motivated on getting his pec. He's motivated on all these stuff. I'm not saying I'm right about this. I just have to I'm reading a book right now, and it's painting me a picture. And the picture is telling me that my 100% focus is not on Stipe Miocic. That's what it tells me.
That's interesting, right? Because I mean, obviously, he's addressing the Tom Aspinall stuff. I mean, obviously, it's being brought up to him. Everybody's talking about Tom Aspinall, but even before Tom Aspinall was the discussion point, he was talking about Alex Pereira, how maybe that would be a matchup that would be incredible. So, I like what you're saying there. I do think what you're saying is a very real possibility because you cannot look past somebody, especially at this level, especially of Stipe's caliber. You cannot look past him even a bit. You need to have 100% laser focus. I do believe he's much more motivated and focused than he was versus Dominick Reyes, versus Thiago Santos,
100%,
versus 100%. Alexander, right? Because I mean, this idea of establishing himself as a 2-division champion, of taking out the greatest heavyweight of all time, you know, he knows that what I mean. He already believes he's the greatest of all time. Jon Jones believes that. Dana White believes that. A lot of people believe that. But he wants to leave it crystal clear, and he knows he can't do at heavyweight what he did at light heavyweight, right? Which is just take out competitors for a decade. He doesn't have that kind of time, but you can fast forward to the front of the line if you take out the greatest heavyweight of all time. So I think your question is fair. I'm going to lean the other side and say that I think Jon Jones is as laser focused as I do believe not necessarily Stipe himself, but what Stipe represents and what it means for his legacy. I think, and I think legacy means everything to Jon Jones, right? More than beating Stipe. I think the legacy means everything.
Fair point. You just sold me. You're right.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Cross that one off.
I crossed motivation off my list. All right. So that takes out number 4. I'm going to go to my number 2.
Okay.
Wrestling.
Yep.
Stipe Miocic is a wrestler.
Yes.
That's his roots, right? Jon Jones is a great wrestler, but very rarely do you see Jon blast doubling or anybody. He's very good in the trip game. He's very good at using his length to get somebody off balance. That's going to be his big advantage. But I think he's going to be able to just one-on-one out wrestle Stipe from a purely wrestling standpoint? I don't.
No, it would be. I mean, Jon Jones is incredibly effective in the clinch, right? I mean, that's safe to say. Even though we talk about him fighting from range, right? That's where his wrestling takes place, right? Little trips, and he's using his limbs to his advantage. So the clinch is where he's going to be most effective in that. But yeah, as far as just shooting a blast double or just in exchange, reaching down, grabbing a single, running the pipe, like I just don't think that happens. So I agree with you there. If we're video game charactering this or whatever the case may be, I'm putting wrestling. I'm putting the check on the side of Stipe Miocic, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and like mat wrestling, probably, but I don't think Stipe's taking down Jon either. So, I think they equal each other out to a degree.
I agree. I would agree. Now,
you brought up clinch because that was number 3 in my list. This is going to be a lot tougher than I think people are thinking. I look at, it's funny, like the nerds that we are and what you mentioned with Chael Sonnen, like I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at a complete picture here. And Daniel Cormier is phenomenal in the clinch. Phenomenal. He was a Greco-Roman wrestler. Did he take Stipe down in the clinch? No. Nope. Now, Jon Jones did take Daniel Cormier down, right?
Nope.
But
I think that was just to prove a point.
Right. But MMA math doesn't add up, right? No, and I'm not saying he's not going to take him down in the clinch because I think he's going to try. And I think he probably can. I think it's going to be a lot harder. But what I do know about the clinch is let's go back to history and let's look at Stipe in the clinch. Now, he got knocked out by Daniel Cormier in the clinch.
That was a wild one. That was the one we didn't see, but not ending that way. That was one we didn't see coming.
Correct. But let's go to DC too. Right? He busted up DC in the clinch. He took every shot. Now, this is why I always put the Ngannou fight as an asterisk there in my head to a degree. Because the shots that DC landed in DC 2, the clinch, those were some of the most brutal shots you could ever see somebody take. And he kept on walking through them and then beat Daniel in the clinch.
Yes.
Attacked his body, busted him up, right? And so the clinch, what I know is I'm painting this picture is that Stipe can fight in all of these spots, man. He can fight in all of these spots. Like, I'm not going to say there is a clear runaway advantage in any of these positions that Jon Jones has. Like, I'm always going to put, if it's on a 10-point must scale, striking, 10 for, in fluidity and effectiveness. Jon Jones is 10. Stipe at an 8. Power. Stipe at a 10. Jon at an 8.
Yep. Flip it the other way.
Wrestling. I think Jon is the better wrestler, MMA style wrestler. Jon at a 10. Stipe at an 8. Clinch. Oh, I don't know, man. I've seen it. If you can employ your takedown there. And that's why I'm painting this entire picture. I'm telling you, I have sat down so much and thought about this fight about like, how can I've been guilty of it as him, my favorite fighter, Stipe, of just discounting this fight. And I said, I am wrong at doing this. I'm going to give reasons why I'm wrong.
I am siding with you 100% in this, right? Because since the moment this fight was announced, I was like, I mean, God bless Stipe, but he's 42. He's been sitting out on the sidelines. He's, this is Jon Jones, by God. This is the greatest of all time. I mean, God bless him, but we're not. This is Jon Jones all day. But then you got to get past. I mean, and that's how you have with every fight. You first hear a fight, 2 names get mentioned, you go, okay, I think so and so instantaneously, right? And you kind of go with that. And again, I've been one. How do you pick against Jon Jones at any point over the last 10 years? You know what I mean? 12 years, 15. You don't pick against Jon Jones. So when a Jon Jones matchup gets announced, you just go, well, here we go. I mean, poor Stipe. But you have just laid out what exactly has been going through my head over the last week or so as we've gotten closer and closer to this matchup, and I've really been able to focus on it. And it's like this is way more problematic of a fight than anybody cares to admit. Because while you may say that Jon Jones is the favorite, started off saying that he is, we'll stand here right now saying that it is. For the rest of this week, when they walk into the cage on Saturday night, I will have no problem looking in the cage and saying that man, Jon Jones, should win this matchup. He's the favorite to win this matchup. But it's not automatic. There are a lot of problem areas for it. And maybe I'll ask you this. What do you think Jon Jones' best path to victory is? Because it is a little curious, right? Like the power of heavyweight, again, it's still a question mark. So it's like on the one hand, I think, because you talked about the difficulties of the wrestling, the difficulty of the clinch. And now you say, stay at range, pick them apart, use your length to your advantage. But if you do that, you're going to allow Stipe to walk through it and throw those big shots at you, especially over the course of 5 rounds, because I don't think Jon Jones is finishing this on the feet early. Now, could he get the fight to the ground? And he's got some of the vicious, most nastiest ground and pound we've ever seen in mixed martial arts, the nasty elbows, what he did, his creativity even. I mean, that range, there's a lot of tools that he has. But I'm kind of thinking about like where is the best path to victory? And none of them are easy, because if you stay on the feet and use that range to your advantage, you're going to allow Stipe to walk through it. As you said, he will take some shots to get to you. He's shown it throughout his career. I think he'll definitely do it against Jon Jones. And if you say, well, clearly you want to get it to the ground, get the top position, use that ground and pound that you have, I would understand that too. But I don't think that's necessarily easy because of the scenarios you laid out and what he's shown in his track record. So what do you think is the best path to victory for Jon Jones?
Keeping Stipe guessing over the course of 25 minutes. And that's where Jon Jones is the GOAT.
Right.
He's keeping you guessing. Right. So if you're going to ask me, I think Jon Jones wins this fight. I'm 50-50 on whether he finishes him or not. Okay. So I'm going to lay out 2 scenarios on where I think Jon is eventually going to run away with it in a very tough fight. But I do think, Jon is going to, I think in a weird way, he's going to win every round in a very competitive rounds, and so everybody looks at it could be 50-49 or 50-46 or 50-45, right? Somewhere in that range. And when you read it in the history books, it's going to be like Jon Jones won unanimous decision. It wasn't even close. But when you watch that fight, it's not going to be the same, right? He's going to win every round, but it's going to be all competitive. And I'm going to be sitting on the edge of my seat for it because, they're 2, in my opinion, beloved fighters. You love Jon because you hate him, right?
Of
and
course.
Then you just love Stipe because you love him.
Right.
Okay. And I think Jon is going to keep him guessing. I think, the mixing of the kicks, the push kicks, the linear kicks to the knees, mixed in with the punches. Jon will go low with kicks and then he'll come up high with no rhyme or reason. He's setting traps. He's very good at that. His angles, he throws elbows. He's just always keeping you guessing, right? So that's going to prohibit, I think, Stipe by coming in and getting to these exchanges, because when he comes in, he's going to get hit with something. And usually when you get hit with something like a jab or a front kick or a push kick or some weird, like flying in, spinning elbow, it forces you to stop. Just your body mechanics is like, stop, reassess. Yep. Where you can't just run through it and throw punches as you can if it's just like, hey, let's stand in the center and I'm going to throw 3-punch combos and you could probably get 2 punches in during my 3 punches. I don't think that's going to be the scenario. That's his path to victory. But I also do think if this goes to the ground in a way of, if you watch Jon when he does get people to the ground outside of Cyril Gane, right? Because that was kind of like, he just walked him and grabbed his legs and kind of dumped him on his butt right against
bad. It wasn't even a takedown. It was just like a pushover.
Jon is very good at taking people down in a position where they're not defensively sound right away.
Right.
Because he uses, his length in a clinch to get somebody off balance and does some sort of trip sweep or, something of that nature, which is going to allow him to employ his grappling right away. And do I think he is the better grappler? Not the better wrestler necessarily, but is he a better grappler? I do. And so I do think with, people discredit jiu-jitsu or maybe his jiu-jitsu, but when you have the length of a Jon Jones, it's amazing the submissions you can pull off.
Absolutely.
So I think getting taken down in some awkward position can lead to Jon subbing him. But if you're going to ask me, it's going to be eventually a widening race, albeit very competitive, but of just keeping Stipe guessing. Because when he's the more dynamic striker with, being just weird to a degree, beautifully weird. Yeah. But he's also more, like young. He's also more athletic. I don't know the ages, right? But he's just more athletic than Stipe is. So he can keep him guessing the whole time. And it could be 3 shots to 1 every single time. And that one isn't even clean by Stipe. And Stipe's hoping to get that one exchange where he can do it. That's the way I see this going. But Jon has to be on. Like, he has to be dialed in for that game plan to be effective the way that he wants. I do think he's going to be on. You sold me. But that's the path to victory, in my opinion.
I think you're spot on there. And you said it at the very end. I love you said he's going to have to be, because normally if you were laying out a game plan where it's like, man, you just have to be technically superior and you have to, be dynamic in all aspects of martial arts for any other fighter, it's tough to do that, right? But for Jon Jones, we know that he is operating at such a high level. He is capable of doing that, but he cannot lose focus for one moment, especially at heavyweight, especially against Stipe. One shot can change everything. So there will be I think, because I tend to agree with you. By the way, I was just looking up. I'm just looking at best fight odds. The only ones they have props on right now are with FanDuel, but you can get fight goes to a decision and Jones by decision, both at plus money odds. So if you believe firmly that this thing goes a full 5 rounds, there's an opportunity to not have to bet minus 750 on Jon Jones and maybe get some plus money for your bet. But I agree. So
what is the leading candidate? Jones by TKO or knockout or by sub?
Jones by TKO is plus 120, so that's the favorite. Jones by submission plus 250, and then Jones by decision plus 440. Now, again, I'm only seeing this on one site, FanDuel, and these are odds, the best fight odds, but that's what I'm seeing right now. So knockout is the leading candidate right now.
Interesting.
Which I think if we're saying knockout, I think we're both saying TKO, like ground and pound, right? I don't think he's, again, one hitter quitter. Just leaving Stipe cold.
Right.
Accumulation. TKO. Again, he does have that nasty ground and pound, the vicious elbows, the creativity that he has with his striking. So I agree with you. I think you laid out exactly the scenario. And again, Jon Jones is capable of executing that scenario, man. Capable of being dynamic, capable of hey, let's strike when he thinks we're gonna wrestle. Let's wrestle when he thinks we're gonna strike. Let's go high when he's defending low. Let's go, he's capable of doing that because, man, he just everything. I believe everything operates at a much slower speed for Jon Jones than it does for anybody else in the history of martial arts. Like, it's just the dude sees everything. He's so comfortable in there. You see it the way he operates. We talk about how chaotic it is in there, right? And it is chaotic, but for him, it doesn't seem to be. It just seems that he's able to operate at a different speed than anybody else and mentally process anything. So he can do those things. But there's going to be tension at the start of round 1, at the start of round 2. At the start of round 3, every time they're standing 30 feet across from each other and they've got to come back out to the center cage, there's a possibility that Stipe can land that one shot. And I think that's why this fight is more interesting and entertaining than people maybe want to give it credit for. And I understand it's what have you done for me lately? And Tom Aspinall is the hot commodity, and I am a Tom Aspinall fan. I think that dude, 5 years from now, we're going to be talking about that dude. Where does that guy rank all time? He may have all the heavyweight records at that point. You know what I mean? This dude seems to be a cut above everybody. So I understand why there's the hype, why there's the excitement, why there's the discussion. I get it. I have it too. You and I both want to see that fight. You know what I mean? We do. But it's silly to try to look at this fight on Saturday and assume it's a foregone conclusion.
It's not a foregone conclusion. Jon Jones is the heavy favorite. We both agree that he's the heavy favorite. But we are not going to my purpose on this was to re-educate people on the brilliance of Stipe Miocic because, man, what this guy's done in his career, it pisses me off to a degree with how much of a fan I am of him, that the disrespect, in my opinion, is just blatant disrespect, that nobody gives him a shot. I mean, listen, we're in the heavyweight division, for crying out loud. Every single person has a shot. And to say Stipe doesn't pisses me off. Not to mention saying Stipe, the greatest heavyweight champion the UFC has ever had, doesn't have a shot. It pisses me off even more. And not to mention just what a great guy everybody says he is. Pisses me off even more. And he's got a shot. He's outgunned. At the end of the day, he is outgunned.
Yeah, he is. But it's interesting because that you look at that championship run that he had, right? I mean, and he has the loss to JDS back in 2014. But then he goes on a run that includes Mark Hunt, Andre Arlovsky, Fabrice Verdum, Alistair Overeem, Junior Dos Santos, and Francis Ngannou. That is absolutely an insane run. Now, that run was from 2015 to 2018. So we're talking about 6 years ago at this point. But in the heavyweight division, power's the last thing to go.
Let's put just even that run. Let's go back and let's just remember he avenged his DC loss. He got knocked out by DC, fixed it.
Yep.
And then finished DC nearly almost the same way DC finished him.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you look at it, right, DC gets the first round finish in the first meeting, right? And that was shocking. We didn't see it winning that fight. Not only does Stipe come back and win twice, he goes essentially 9 full rounds with DC at that point, right? He wins by decision. He wins at the 409 marker, the 4th round. So essentially he's gone 9 full rounds with the guy after getting knocked out in the first round. So he made the adjustments. He showed that, look, again, it's heavyweight. You don't have to, your chin doesn't have to be shot for you to get clipped by anybody in the heavyweight division. It just happens sometimes. So yeah, man, there's a real possibility here. Now, it is more exciting. I think you've laid it out very well. And we are both fired up about it, but I want to mention Jon Jones. If Jon Jones does win this fight, can we stop? If we're going to talk about stopping with the disrespect of Stipe Miocic, can we stop with the disrespect of Jon Jones as well? That Jon Jones is scared of Tom Aspinall, that Jon Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall, especially Hold on.
Yes. The answer is yes. The answer to that is unequivocally yes. He is not scared. I do want to talk about that in a little more detail. Okay. So, but just to add to your run, he also beat Daniel Cormier 2 out of 3 times. When Daniel Cormier was a 2-division world champion, give the guy his respect. It's pissing me off. Now, in just full transparency, there are other fights on this card.
Yes, there are.
We do have Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. It's a rematch. Oliveira withstood a heavy barrage for Michael Chandler. Ended up finishing Chandler in their first fight. We talked last week, Bo Nickel, Paul Craig. Minus 1,000 is
crazy.
Crazy.
And
a fight that I'm really looking forward to. Wait a second. Man, they bumped your boy and Chris Weidman all the way down to the prelims.
I just saw that too. I'm looking at UFC.com right now, and I've just seen that as well. I'm a little surprised by that, but I'm also not surprised because I know exactly which fight you're talking about. And that as a main card opener, Mauricio Rufy and James Yantop as a main card opener in Madison Square Garden. Yeah, I see what you're doing there, UFC. I see what you're doing there.
And I told everybody this a year ago.
Yes, you did.
Watch out for this guy, Mauricio Rufy, dude. When I reffed him, I was like, dude, this guy is unbelievably good.
You did.
Unbelievably good.
You had the best seat in the house, and you came away from that saying, man, it's that perspective you get. It's so fun, like seeing people on TV versus seeing people in person. There is a different feel to it, and man, when you just see these specimens move in a certain way, land. It's the way their punches sound when they land. It's the way the confidence, the way they move. This guy, I mean, look, he's a huge favorite. And so some people may say, well, why is this card open? You know why it's opened up the main card, because they want to get some fireworks cracking to start things off on the main card.
And the UFC recognizes it, and they're going to be like, okay, we're going to start putting a little bit of press behind this dude.
Yep, 100%. This guy could be the future of the lightweight division.
Okay, so now that we know that there is other fights, and nobody can say that we didn't talk about him, we talked about him. Now we're going to move on to the point that we were talking about before with everything Aspinall, everything Jon Jones. Okay, we're going to operate under the auspices that he does get by Stipe.
Right.
Jon Jones, I said this before we started recording. You said it now when we were recording. He's not scared. Right. I said before we were recording that this guy may be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to read you his quote from your boy, Kevin Iole. Was interviewing him.
Yep.
And he asked him about facing Tom Aspinall in his next defense. More than likely not. I feel like Tom Aspinall is, I don't want to say a nobody, but he just hasn't proven anything. He hasn't done anything. He won his belt against Sergey. Sergey just got slaughtered by someone else. Let me get back to the quote. I'm not here to gamble someone else making a name off me. I'm here to compete against the guys where we look back 10 years from now. I'd be like, Jon Jones fought this guy and that guy and this legend and this champion and that champion. I just lost the quote. Oh, yeah. If there were to be a fight of a guy that's still on our UFC roster, that would be financially worth it, but legacy worth it, it would be Alex Pereira. I think that fight would go much farther for my legacy than a young man who's cool today and maybe gone tomorrow.
I mean, Jon Jones is just the most, subtly disrespectful dude on the planet. I love the way he just, throws the jabs. But here, what he's saying, and this is, it's not wrong. Now, this could change. Like I just mentioned, I think 5 years from now, we're sitting back talking about Tom Aspinall and where he stands on the list of greats of all time. And so for Jon Jones to face him now, were he to get this opportunity to beat him, and then to know that as long as, he continues on, Tom Aspinall can never get that win back because he had a shot, he lost it, and Jon Jones will forever be the GOAT. I mean, that could mean something. But as for right now, he's right. Alex Pereira is the biggest. You and I have talked about this when we were looking at what headliners, what matchups could you do. I firmly believe that the biggest fight right now that the UFC can put on is Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira. I do not believe you could find a more intriguing mainstream crossover, blockbuster financially, legacy building for either man fight than that. You just couldn't. So the disrespect of people saying that Jon Jones is scared of Tom Aspinall, while also mentioning, but if I don't fight Tom Aspinall, I want to fight the dude that everybody says has the death touch over here with Alex Pereira. That's not scared. If he's saying I don't see anybody else on the landscape that would matter, okay, then maybe you start going, you don't? There's some people out there. But he said, I don't see this guy. I want the other guy that's the biggest star in the sport right now, arguably, that has all the flow behind him, that has all the skills behind him, that has all the buzz behind him. That's the guy I want. So I get the Aspinall hype. I'm an Aspinall fan. I love it. But to say that Jon Jones is ducking while simultaneously saying the guy I actually want is Alex Pereira is just dumb, to be honest with you.
Michael Bisping chimed in, and I want to read his quote.
All right, I haven't seen this, I don't think.
If he doesn't, this is in the words of Khabib Nurmagomedov, number one bullshit. If he refuses to fight Tom Aspinall next, then we've got to start having a serious conversation as to whether or not this man should be stripped. Jon is the undisputed champion of the world. Tom is the interim champion. This is how it works. They face one another, calling out Alex Pereira for a legacy fight. I'm not saying this is a Jon Jones hater, but if this was boxing, Jon would be stripped. That's a fact. Alex Pereira is incredible. I'm a huge fan. Take my money right now. I would love to see them fight. But that's only if Jon Jones can get through Tom Aspinall. There's no discussion for any other fight to happen. Now, with that being said, I believe that Aspinall, I believe, Bisping, you're not stripping Jon Jones under any circumstances.
I mean,
so that's drinking a little bit of haterade, right? That's not understanding like who Jon Jones really is.
It's not like you're going to break Jon Jones' heart if you strip him of the title. He's been stripped a couple of times along the way, and they're like, "I'll just go win it back." How about that?
Yeah. But I'm going back to what I said last week. Okay, so this is a win-win, in my opinion, for Jon Jones. He says, okay, if they give him Alex Pereira, he ain't scared. He'll take it. I believe he will take it because he knows he will get the bag, right? That could go down, as I said it, as the biggest fight in MMA history, pay-per-view number-wise. And I think we both agreed on that. If they make him fight Aspinall, he's like, well, he hasn't done anything lately, right? And that goes back to, I said, I think Jon will lay the gloves down, right? Which will force Aspinall to take another fight, which could be the winner of Volkov. Cyril Gane, he's going to get more intel, more data. Let that be down the line because he watches and studies more than anybody. He's wanting more data, and he's securing a bigger bag. Now he's a little more, what have you done for me lately guy. Jon Jones, I think, is strategic in all of this. He's playing chess when we're playing checkers.
100%. I actually really agree with that assessment. I mean, again, I don't hate, and look, we don't know how many times more Jon Jones wants to compete, right? He is 37 years old. He has established, I mean, you can't, whether you like Jon Jones or not, whether you agree with the way he carries himself or the way he's handled his career, if you're going to look through his track record and knock what he's accomplished and knock his skills, you are legit just a hater. I mean, the dude beat everybody, man, and he did it in incredible fashion. But again, I do think the Alex Pereira fight is the biggest fight the UFC can make right now. That's huge for Jones's legacy. And then at that point, at that point, 100% right. And Michael Bisping probably has a little bit of a UK bias. Let's be honest. And I love Michael Bisping, man. I enjoyed covering his career. Just saw him at the Apex this past weekend. Always saying hello to him I love that guy. But he's probably got a little UK bias. He's bumping his boy right there, right? I mean, they hail from the same parts over there. He's saying you got to give him his chance. If you tell me that Jon Jones has 2 fights left, and one of them isn't time. Now, again, we're assuming he beats Stipe. But if you're telling me that Jon Jones has 2 fights left, and one of them isn't Tom Aspinall, he beats Stipe, he beats Alex Pereira, and he's got one more, and it's not Tom Aspinall, then at that point, fire all the shots that you want. Get out all the quack sounds and call this man a duck and a chicken and whatever else you want to, because I do not see any fights that make sense in the current landscape of things other than that. But if he's taking Alex Pereira over Tom Aspinall, I can't hate on that. I cannot hate on that decision from a legacy standpoint, from a financial standpoint. Now, best case scenario, to just firmly seal the discussion, he beats Stipe, he beats Alex Pereira, also not a given, by the way. We know that. I mean, anything can change with that man. He beats him, and then he beats Tom Aspinall, who I believe Tom Aspinall will be the champion of this division for a long time. But, I mean, that secures not only his legacy of the past by everything that he's accomplished, the legacy of the present by beating Alex Pereira, the biggest star in the sport right now, and the legacy of the future by beating Tom Aspinall, who looks to me like the heir apparent in the heavyweight division. My God, what an accomplishment that would be. But if he's only got 1 fight left after Stipe, and it is Alex over Aspinall, I can't hate on that.
Nope. And if they don't give him Alex, and he forces through publicly negotiating, which is what he is doing right now, make no mistake about it. He's negotiating in public. He is forcing the UFC's hand. And he will force Tom Aspinall to take another fight. I'm 100% convinced of it. If they don't give him Bahia, then he gets more intel. He gets more data. There's the chance that Aspinall could lose. There is the chance, which that fight's off the table. Whew, don't have to do that one. And I still get Bahia. This man's playing chess, not checkers, bro.
He gets the game. He's been in here for a long time. He's been at this a minute, and he's in a position. It's such a position of power where financially He doesn't need the money. He'll take the money. Everybody will take more money. I mean, just because you got millions don't mean you don't want more millions, but he's good, right? His legacy is secure. He doesn't need to go prove anything. I understand there may be some haters on the internet that, they're going to find some fault regardless, but he's in such a great position because he's like, I got everything. I paid all my dues. I'm good. I don't have to rush into anything. And if I decide I want to, I will, but he can be patient about it. And I'm telling you, you're right. He's laying it all out so that it plays out exactly the way he wants to. And he's earned that. He's earned that right. I mean, when the UFC is willing to give him that kind of power and that kind of respect, considering all the stuff outside of the cage that they've had to deal with. I mean, you saw the promo this weekend. I mean, they're leaning into the fact that the guy's had some problems along the way and he's been difficult to deal with. They're not trying to pretend that he's somebody he's not. That goes to show you how much they respect what he's accomplished and how good he is. And you're right, man. I think, he wins this fight. Whether it may, Hunter Campbell and Dana White, they're going to bring Jon into the office and it's going to be like, all right, what's it going to take to get this done? Like, we got to have this fight. Everybody wants to see it. We need this fight. What's it going to take to get this done? And that's when Jon starts writing a whole lot of zeros on there. You know what I mean?
5-0,000,000.
That'll be my base pay. And then let's talk about the pay-per-view revenue as well. Let's get that factored in there. And, I'm going to need a couple of appearance fees. I mean, look, it'll be big. So I would just, and again, I mean, it's very, we talked about this last week, and I do agree with you. I think Jon Jones, if he doesn't outright retire, will at the very least suggest that he's going to retire. But there is a real possibility for him to be on the microphone with Tom Aspinall sitting cage side and to either plant the seed for that matchup or to just continue to stoke the flame. And Jon Jones is not afraid to stoke the fire a little bit.
You mean he's not he's an agitator?
I mean, the man is at his core, this man is an agitator. You know what I mean? Like, he just likes to just poke the bear. So, I'd love for him to at least keep it going, just so there's a possibility. Because listen, I would love to see, I absolutely would love to see Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones. Really, really would. And I even love how Tom Aspinall, if you go back and watch, very complimentary. Like, from the very beginning, when he first came into the UFC, you talk about what he wanted to do, and he, for all along the way, he's talked about fighting Jon Jones. You know what I mean? Because again, it's never disrespectful. It's just like, I believe I can beat him. I think I can beat him, and I want that opportunity. He's been very respectful. Now he's starting to say, hey, don't duck me. You know what I mean? Don't duck me. Don't shy away from this opportunity. And I think he'll keep doing that, and he should keep doing that. Keep it top of mind. But I understand why Tom is saying you're ducking me, and I get it. That's the path you got to go with. I gotta appeal to your ego a little bit. You know what I mean? I gotta get you to have that pride that you need to shut me up. But if what he's doing as Jon Jones is skipping Tom Aspinall to take on Alex Pereira, I just don't think you can criticize, man. I don't think you can say he's ducking. Again, if he takes if he beats Stipe and then somehow is able to book Alex Pereira and beat Alex Pereira, and then he starts talking about a crossover matchup with Deontay Wilder or something like that, you know what I mean? Then you start going, hey, settle down, buddy, Tom Aspinall. But if that's the path he goes, I just don't think you can be critical of it.
Here's what I want everybody to realize. No matter what, in 10 years, we're not going to say, but he ducked Tom Aspinall if they don't fight. Listen, we said that about Fedor. He's not coming to the UFC. Blah 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 blah. It was a 6-month news cycle, and now we still talk about Fedor as the mythical figure that Fedor was.
Right.
10 years from now, 5 years from now, when Jon Jones is retired and his plaque is going into the UFC Hall of Fame, and we're widely regarding him as the greatest that has ever done this sport, we're not going to say, oh yeah, but he didn't put over the new lion. And so he doesn't need it. Is he scared? No. He'll do it to take the bag. He'll do it if he thinks he can win. Either way, this is just me talking. Either way, I don't see Jon, contrary to what he says in the cage, I don't really see him retiring after this fight. I just don't. I see one more giant matchup on his terms, where and when he says.
You're right about that. And it's funny because as you were describing that scenario, it's 5 years from now, we're looking back. It's 10 years from now, we're looking back. I could see us absolutely saying, it's a damn shame we never got to see that fight, right? I mean, it would be. I think it would be. I'd love to see Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones.
If Tom Aspinall goes to the fame and gets comparably,
yeah, I was going to say, especially if
blown out knee. I mean, so much could happen.
Oh yeah, if he loses in his next fight, or as they said, has a knee injury, I'm knock on wood, don't want to wish anything bad on anybody. If something like that happens, and he doesn't, end up accomplishing what we think he can accomplish, we'll never even talk about it. If Tom Aspinall goes on to accomplish what we believe he can, I can see us looking back, going, it's a damn shame we didn't see that fight, but it does not throw into question anything that Jon Jones has accomplished up to this point, or the legacy that he has created. That is already firmly set in stone. That is firmly established. And if you're a new follower of the sport, you didn't live it, I can understand. Maybe I haven't seen this guy that round. I don't know why you guys revere this guy so much. If you lived it and you were around that time, you already know. I mean, the guy is the greatest of all time. So, lot things that can happen. And guess what? All screws it all up. If Stipe goes out and wins,
Stipe. Oh. Man, I hope we get Stipe wearing that backwards hat, walking to the cage. Man, I love me some Stipe, dude. Just a all-American dude, man. All-American man.
He is. How do you not love it? I mean, it's just an incredible story. I think he had some kind of strained relations with the UFC for a while. Maybe they didn't necessarily push him as much as they could have, and maybe that's why his star status isn't as high as it should be. But that run he was on was incredible. And it's funny because you laid it out perfectly. I stopped the run at Daniel Cormier, but you're right. It's like, yeah, that was a hurdle. That was a bump in the road, but then he came back and rectified that not only once, but twice. You know what I mean? So you really,
he finishes him with punches the first time, dominates him the second one.
Yeah. So you really, the run probably shouldn't stop at DC. It should probably include all three DC matchups when you're talking about a run of greatness, even when you're talking about a loss being in there as well, to be able to bounce back from that. Pretty damn amazing.
And it was only 6 months after that's Francis Ngannou, after the DC, I say second, but second of his wins, the third DC fight. It's not a lot of time to heal after the run that he was on. I mean, the names are outrageous. So listen, we're not going to disrespect Stipe. I'm not going to allow it here on this podcast, nor would my esteemed colleague John Morgan ever do so. All you other fools out there, you can do it, but you're going to have to come through us first.
100%. Hey, that doesn't mean Jon Jones couldn't go out and win this fight in dominant fashion. I mean, Jon Jones is incredible, but
he's got all the intangibles on his side.
100%. But you got to give Stipe some respect coming into this matchup, man. And I'm looking forward to it. And again, I'm bummed I'm not going to be in Madison Square Garden, but I can tell you, man, just that the atmosphere of the press conference, of the ceremonial weigh-ins, of the fight night itself, man. New York, the fans there are a little bit different, man. It's a little bit different energy, and it's going to have a great feel to it all week long. And so it's going to be a fun week for a UFC fan.
So we know what you got going on this weekend. Care to ask me?
What you got going on?
Friday night, November 15th, Biloxi, Mississippi, your boy. Going to be in the cage. Gamebred MMA, Jorge Masvidal's bare knuckle MMA. I know I've already got the main event. We'll see what else we got.
Oh, you already know you got approved for the main event. I love it. I love it. Well, listen, it is a good card, by the way. I am really looking forward to this fight. Had a chance to speak to Jason Knight, who's just an absolute dog. And I love it. He's like, I'm the last of a dying breed, man. People don't fight like me anymore. And he is. Yeah. He is. I absolutely love it. He's on there. So had a chance to talk to him for Grind City Media. So check that out on the Grind City Media YouTube page, wherever you get your podcast. Also talk to the organizer as well, Jorge Masvidal, for the MMA Roadshow. You can check that out on YouTube there, or that iTunes feed as well. But I had a chance to talk to him about, just how much different this bare knuckle MMA is. It's really interesting. I mean, you as a grappling enthusiast, that's one of the things I've noticed about bare knuckle MMA. It does make the grappling game different because you don't have those gloves, especially when you're looking for chokes. And so even though you think bare knuckle and you think striking, and of course, obviously, look, when there's bare knuckle, skin to skin, bone to bone, you will get more cuts and lacerations and blood and things like that. We've seen it in bare knuckle boxing, we've seen it in bare knuckle MMA. But in MMA, I think the thing I didn't expect the first time I watched it was how it really does impact the grappling game without the gloves in place. It's a lot easier to slide in chokes, and it's a lot tougher to hold on sometimes, arm bars.
Well, even holding, like, even when you're fighting a rear naked choke and you're holding 2-on-1, right? You have that base of that glove which acts as a stopper. You don't have that anymore.
Yeah, you're not. You can't grab the glove, right? But if you grab the wrist and push down, like, it's getting stopped by that glove, and so that's like an extra form of holding there.
Correct. Even like if you're on bottom half guard or whatever, you've got a bigger circumference area where it's not going to be as easy to like roll the wrist out.
Right.
And that's a technique you teach. I grab here, they can't punch you. But I mean, you got Randy Costa, Brandon Davis in the main event. I'm really looking forward to. Maurice Green, Chase Sherman, Kevin Lee trying to make his road back to the octagon. He will be fighting in this. Charles Rosa.
Alessio Sakara on there. How about an old school name there? Alessio Sakara. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Tyler the Zombie Hill. Hardcore MMA fans may know that name. He was on Contender Series, fought in PFL. I mean, there's a lot of good fighters on this card. Jason Knight is fighting Joshua Weems, UFC veteran, been on the Contender Series. He's been a late call-up, late replacement UFC guy, but he has been for the last 5 years, Joshua Weems has run through every pro throughout the whole South. This kid is so good. I really wish the UFC would have given him more time on some of his fights. He always came in on a 5 days notice.
Yeah.
But Joshua Wide Open Weems, that's his nickname, Wide Open Weems. I've reffed him so many times, and he is so good.
I should point out, obviously, your job will be in the officiating of it, but I should point out to anybody that wants to watch it, it's not a pay-per-view either. They stream it for free on the YouTube channel. So Gamebred MMA YouTube channel, that'll be on Friday night. So if you want to see some great fights, there's some great names there that you're going to recognize. And, of course, if you want to see the man, EMAC right here, McMahon, in the cage there getting his job done, I mean, check that out.
Well, there was some controversy last time, and so they call in the big guns.
They bring in the professional. This is gonna be like, hey, listen, I'm looking forward to Friday. This is going to be a crazy day. Now, and I'd kind of forgotten. I mean, even though I just did those interviews, I've been thinking so much about 309, and I've been thinking about the fact that, look, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson is this Friday night as well, right? And I've been thinking about CFFC match. There's a lot going on. So my Friday night is going to be CFFC match day. So please join me, UFC Fight Pass. Obviously, if you've got a Fight Pass subscription, you'll be watching that. It is Campbell versus Nebraska. We'll be out on a baseball field there in North Carolina. Me and Shane Sparks will be on the mic. Should say if you don't have a subscription to Fight Pass and you happen to be just a wrestling aficionado, which I would find weird that you just
$2.99
break down an hour of MMA. But yeah, $2.99 a month for wrestling only. So sign up and watch that. Then after that, we're early, right? So it's because it's outside. We're going to do it a little early in the day. We're doing it at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So you can start your day off that 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Start your evening off there. Then you can double screen it up, right? You can put YouTube on over here, watching some Gamebred MMA. And it's Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson as well. So I'm going to have two screens on right there.
I guarantee you they're not going to the ring until 11 o'clock.
Oh, no, they're going late. So you might not even have to simultaneously. So you're going to get all the way through.
Gamebred MMA, all these. Kevin Lee is on the card.
It's amazing. So you're going to get that. Then you're going to get UFC 309. I'll be watching it just like you guys. I thought I was going to be ringside, cage side. I'm not, but I'm looking forward to watching the pay-per-view. But then realize that your weekend is not over for combat sports. Then we got 2 CFFC match day events on Sunday. We'll be in Toms River, New Jersey. And if you're an MMA fan, you know what Toms River, New Jersey means. That means Frankie Edgar is going to be in the house, all right? You're definitely going to be there. But there you're going to see NC State, a powerhouse program. They're going to be featured twice. They're going to go against Princeton, and they're also going to go against Rutgers as well. So we'll be featuring both of those from Toms River, New Jersey. It's called the Jersey Jostle is the name of the event that we're broadcasting there. So a lot of fun stuff this weekend, a lot of John Morgan and a lot of Eric McMahon. We're going to be all over the place, man. So get your combat sports, get your Grind City favorites in there, checking out these other places as well.
And I even talked to Big John McCarthy today, right?
Nice.
Right before we were recording. And there was controversy with the reffing and there was controversy with the judging. And I just said, hey, I want to, bounce some things off you. I'm like, I think I know the answer, but the leash should not be any shorter with Bareknuckle. He's like, oh, hell no. What's different? They're not wearing gloves. They chose it. It's still mixed martial arts.
I love it.
You got it, Big John. I knew that was the answer, but I wanted... Don't yell at me, please. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for coming to the GOAT just for clarification. And
hey, I'm consulting with you, man. Just want to double check, man. It's always good to get Big John to weigh in, man. The man,
and you know what? I kind of razz him how he yells at me here and there, but it's probably because he's invested in my success at this point.
Yeah,
you made the introduction on that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
But I'm telling you, he only does it because he cares. He wants the best product out there at all times. I'll never forget his first thing, Eric. You can never go wrong if you take into account what's best, like in any decision, what's best for the fighters what's best for the fans, what's best for the sport, then what's best for the promotion. If you go through in any of your decision making and making that down on any controversial stuff, what's best for the fighter, what's best for the fans, what's best for the promotion, what's best for the sport, use that as your North Star, you'll always come up with the right decision.
It's incredible. That's great advice, man. Yeah, he's passionate about it. You know what I mean? He literally saw the sport and helped usher it from its infancy to the global powerhouse it is now. Again, a lot of newer fans of the sport, and welcome. Happy that you're sharing along with this love that we have as well. But if you were there from the beginning, you remember dark days, man, where people were trying to get rid of this thing. People didn't want it to exist. And he was there, help ushering it into its current state. So, yes, he wasn't the one, making the business decisions behind the scenes, but as far as what was happening in the cage, and he was very much influential in creating the rule set and helping evolve the sport to what it is, because it was spectacle when it started out. It wasn't sport. It was, you go back and watch those early UFCs. Sometimes even I go like, how the hell did I like this stuff, man? This was crazy. And now it's a sport. And he was a big part of helping develop that. So you're absolutely right. When he yells at you, it's because he cares.
And I say he yells at me, but I'm telling you, he is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
100%.
He's a genuine person. That's what I love about him.
It's the best. 100%.
And man, it's a star-studded day. I'm talking to John Morgan. I talked to John McCarthy before. I just missed a call from, I don't know, maybe some hardcore MMA fans would remember this name. Zach Underwood, Bellator veteran, Strikeforce veteran. Good friend of mine too. But anyways, man, star-studded day. I'm talking to all the big dogs.
All that stuff. And then we won't even get into the NBA. You know what I mean? We're just talking about combat sport. We won't even get to all the
Listen,
NBA.
That's my job. It ain't my passion.
I love it. This is the passion, baby. I'm fortunate in that I've been able to marry the two. My passion has become my job. I'm blessed in that regard. So I am very, very fortunate.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, I'm excited. UFC 309, the GOAT versus the GOAT in different GOAT categories. GOAT versus GOAT, UFC 309, Madison Square Garden, only on pay-per-view, and there will be other fights there. I promise, even though we didn't talk about them. So with that being said, for John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy the fights.